Right now on Morning News Now, strikes under fire. This morning, growing scrutiny over a series of U.S. boat strikes targeting alleged drug smugglers from Venezuela in the wake of new reporting that the Pentagon carried out a second strike to kill survivors of a previous bombing. Now, President Trump backing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, while lawmakers on both sides of the aisle demand answers.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
That is a violation of the law of war. When people want to surrender, you don't kill them.
Plus, growing fallout over the asylum process in the U.S. as we learn more about the suspect in last week's deadly attack on the National Guard. We'll bring you the latest from Washington. Also developing this morning, snow way out. Right now, a series of coast-to-coast storms threatening more snow and freezing temperatures, just as millions of people attempt to make their way home after the Thanksgiving holiday. We're tracking the conditions, the warnings, and what you can expect before you head out your door. Also, federal fallout, the FDA announcing it plans to overhaul rules for childhood vaccines, despite an outcry from doctors. What parents need to know. And the steals and deals are just a click or tap away on this Cyber Monday. How stores are using artificial intelligence to post record sales. I'm going to have to get on some websites later on today.
There's some good deals out there. It feels like every day is Cyber Monday now. Because
right. Well, it's just
we shop online every day.
The whole weekend
exactly.
has been, yeah.
Good to have you with us on this Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. We're going to begin this morning with those escalating tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela. Last night, the president confirmed that he recently spoke with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro by phone, but did not go into detail.
It comes after President Trump said on Truth Social Saturday that Venezuela's airspace should be considered closed in its entirety. The president warned last week the U.S. could soon begin targeting alleged Venezuelan drug traffickers on land. This follows months of deadly strikes on vessels that the Trump administration has said were transporting illegal drugs in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Strikes that have killed more than 80 people. In all this time, the White House, though, has yet to provide any evidence the boats were carrying drugs. Members of Congress are now demanding answers about one of those strikes in particular on September 2nd. It's after the Washington Post reported about a follow-up attack that killed the survivors of a boat strike. Some legal experts say, if true, that action could potentially amount to a war crime. For more on all this, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, let's start with this call between President Trump and President Maduro. What's the White House saying when asked if this means the U.S. military action is imminent?
Well, President Trump himself, Joe and Savannah, is saying that we shouldn't read anything into this potentially being imminent, but this is a situation where he wouldn't even say that if it was the case, where he wouldn't necessarily betray that. So it seems like that is a possibility here, but we know that there had been this chance of back-channel communications with Maduro, the president saying that he had considered that and now confirming himself that there was a phone call, but he wouldn't say whether it went well or whether it went badly. He also didn't want to go into any kind of detail on what specifically they talked about. But he said that this is something that he has been weighing, that there have been options, essentially, we believe, in recent weeks presented to him, and we just have to wait and see, though this is something clearly that the president has been discussing and that the administration has been addressing and responding to, given those reports that you just raised.
Monica, I want to turn to that September 2nd strike on that alleged drug smuggling vessel in the Caribbean that we just mentioned. So the Washington Post reported that this was a second strike ordered by a commander who was complying with a previous order, and that came from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And the quote here is to kill everybody. NBC News has not confirmed that detail, but we did mention lawmakers in both the Senate and the House have launched inquiries into this. How's the Trump administration responding to the legal questions that are being raised here?
And lawmakers, we should point out, on Republican-led committees. This isn't just Democrats who have been sounding the alarm, who've been raising questions for weeks about what kind of basis the Trump administration is using, what kind of legality they are using to carry out these strikes and to continue to. We know that we have seen them, and they likely will continue. But the president is saying that Secretary Hegseth denies giving that second order that you referenced with that Washington Post reporting. And he says essentially that he's taking his word for that. Here's how the president responded specifically on that on Air Force One.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
Would you be okay with that if he did?
He said he didn't do it, so I don't have to make that decision.
Now, what's interesting about this, Joe and Savannah, is that Secretary Hegseth, in some of his first responses defending this, said that essentially these strikes were meant to be deadly, were meant to kill potentially everybody there. But at the same time, he is responding to this as being essentially a false narrative. He's criticizing the reporting, and he continues to make these larger comments, rejecting it overall, though, again, trying to justify what they are doing here by claiming that these boats allegedly are carrying drugs. They're classifying them as narco-terrorists, but lawmakers are saying we need to see evidence for that. We need a lot more information on how they're coming to that determination.
Monica, let's talk about the politics of all this. A recent survey found 70% of Americans did not support the U.S. taking military action in Venezuela. So why is this the conflict the president seems to want to have? Is the goal taking on drug traffickers or just destabilizing the Maduro regime?
I do think that President Trump has made clear, and he campaigned on wanting to go against anybody who is bringing drugs into the United States. But the really important context and fact check here is that some of these boats weren't necessarily even destined for the U.S., according to our own NBC News reporting. And some of the drugs they may or may not have been carrying, it's unclear whether they were, again, going to be coming into the United States compared to the way that other drugs enter our country. But we do know that this plays pretty well with the MAGA base, with some of these supporters who want the president to be tough on this kind of crime and this kind of action specifically. But this is now amounting to a place where there are going to be investigations, where there may be these members of the administration who have to come under oath and testify and simply provide a lot more information, even if it's popular with a segment of the Republican movement.
All right, Monica Alba. Monica, thank you.
Well, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the suspect in last week's shooting of National Guard troops in D.C. was radicalized in the United States.
One National Guard member died, another was hospitalized. The suspect is an Afghan national who previously served alongside U.S. troops and was granted asylum. He's accused of opening fire near the White House. In response to the incident, President Trump said that he would permanently pause migration from third world countries. Noem told Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker on Sunday the asylum process would only resume when the government dealt with the backlog of applications. Here's Kristen with more of that conversation.
Hello there, Savannah and Joe. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem about whether people with pending asylum claims could face deportation after President Trump escalated his immigration crackdown following the National Guard shooting in Washington, D.C. When will the asylum process start again?
Well, it'll start when we know that we have dealt with the backlog that we have, Kristen. One of the things that nobody's talked about yet is that Joe Biden left us with a backlog of 1.5 million asylum cases. They allowed so many people to abuse that program that they didn't even process the paperwork. So people who maybe, as you would say, could have credibly claimed this, they weren't even getting processed for years and years because they were allowing it to be abused in such a way. So that backlog needs to be cleared up. The individuals who are here in this country on that program need to be vetted under our standards that we're implementing under President Trump to ensure that they even should be in our country. And if they're not, removed immediately.
Will you deport people with pending asylum claims, Madam Secretary?
We will if they should be. Absolutely. Yes, we are going to go through every single person that has a pending asylum claim, has an asylum claim here in this country. You know, one of the requirements of asylum is that you have to come in every single year for a checkup and an interview process and a revetting. And that is something that we're going to expedite and happen immediately with anyone who does have that asylum claim today and ensure that they deserve to still be in this country, that they still have the purposes for which they claimed that asylum in place and that they're not here being radicalized and perpetuating dangerous criminal activity against our Americans.
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
Thank you, Kristen.
Well, let's get more on this with NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. Gary, good morning. So we heard there from Noem talking about this pause in the asylum process, but I do want to go back to what she said about the suspect's alleged radicalization in the U.S., the suspect here who fired on those National Guard troops. What do authorities believe happened?
So we do understand that he came from Afghanistan to the United States in 2021 during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we understand the Homeland Security Secretary says she believes the radicalization may have happened after he arrived here in the United States. He was living north of Seattle in Washington state. Of course, the investigation here in D.C. and in Washington state about anybody who may have known him or may have had conversations with him in recent weeks or months is certainly well under investigation. But this is an individual who may have been vetted several times, not only when he worked with the CIA in Afghanistan before 2021, but also when he was granted asylum in April by the Trump administration, guys.
NBC News is learning more about the CIA-backed unit that suspect served in during the war in Afghanistan. So tell us what it is we're learning and what we're also learning about some of the subsequent struggles that veterans from that unit say they've been facing since their service.
Yeah, this is some terrific reporting done by my colleagues Dan DeLuce and Rich Shapiro over the weekend. Basically, he was part of a very secretive CIA group called Zero Units. They were among the most extensively vetted of any group that was working in Afghanistan. And basically, they hunted down, under CIA direction, Taliban leaders in Afghanistan. Now, many of them, over 10,000 of them, were pulled out of Afghanistan during the fall of Kabul. They are now in the United States. And as our colleagues have learned, there's many without work permits. Many are struggling to feed their families, put food on the table. And now their legal status is in limbo, especially because of the Trump administration's pause on asylum claims here, guys.
Gary, we understand the families of those National Guard members who were shot have been invited to the White House. What do we know about that?
So the president is the commander-in-chief, and that does include of the Army National Guard. Of course, these two individuals would not have been in active duty on the streets of D.C. if it weren't for the president's orders. And so now he's, of course, acting as consoler-in-chief as well. He does this often, whether it's because of a national disaster or because of a shooting, or he visits the individuals or the individuals' families and the victims' families visit him. President saying over the weekend that he will honor these two individuals, Sarah Wolf, who has died, and Sarah Beckstrom, who has died, and Andrew Wolf, who is still recovering in the hospital from his injuries, guys.
All right, Gary, thank you very much for your reporting here.
During one of the busiest travel times of the year, an intense winter storm system is making its way across the country, creating chaos on roadways and skyways. Over the weekend, icy roads led to crashes all over the country. That includes this one on Interstate 70 in Indiana. It's a pileup of nearly 50 cars.
And at the nation's airports, the winter weather caused major problems yesterday. More than 12,000 flights were delayed. Chicago's O'Hare was one of the hardest hit. They actually logged more than 1,700 flight delays yesterday alone.
And that is where we find NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa, who thankfully doesn't have to get on a plane to go anywhere. She's just there talking to the people who are doing that. So, Maggie, huge backup at O'Hare over the weekend. How are things looking this morning? And just what can we expect as folks maybe try to get home the rest of this week?
Well, guys, so far this morning it looks calm, but obviously it's early, so I caution us with that. And obviously, as we know, messes like this, and we've seen this before, take a long time to untangle. You mentioned all the delays yesterday. We also had more than 1,300. That kid's really upset about the delays, I can tell. We also had more than 1,300 cancellations at O'Hare Saturday alone, and that was when the bulk of the snow really hit. So you think about all of those people who are now in the middle of their plan B, like they rebooked new flights. They're trying to get to other parts of the country, and that's really unfurling nationwide. That snow system that you mentioned is moving east, and today is the final gasp of the post-Thanksgiving travel sprint. We have more than 3 million people, according to Airlines for America, which kind of tracks these numbers, expected to pass through America's airports today. So we're by no means slowing down yet as far as the travel surge is concerned. And then for those who think, well, I can try to beat this by getting on the roads, I mean, you saw the chaos over the weekend. That Indiana pileup, nearly 50 cars on that interstate. That was I-70 outside Terre Haute. We've been waiting on injury reports from authorities. They on the scene last night. We're really just trying to get basically their initial details together. But they said at last count, I think it was 45 cars at least that were involved in that pileup. And they said people were sliding into the guardrails. You can see they were sliding into concrete barriers. You can see them getting out and walking along the highway. That's really dangerous. So it's really like no layer of our travel infrastructure nationwide has been left untouched. Almost no pocket of the country, given the ripple effects that tend to happen, especially with air travel, is left untouched either. And we're by no means out of the woods as far as these higher travel numbers are concerned. So fingers crossed it starts to improve today, guys. We just checked. Combined, we have, back to air travel, more than 1,000 delays and cancellations nationwide already this morning. So fingers crossed that stays relatively low, but it's already picking up, quite frankly.
Oof. And then we'll talk about it again at Christmas. All right.
No
Maggie,
kidding.
We'll let you go talk with that
Exactly.
opinionated child who's wandering around O'Hare right now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maggie.
Best of luck.
A lot to say.
Well, let's get a closer look now at what you can expect today when it comes to the roads or in the sky with your morning news now weather.
Meteorologist Andrea Romero joins us this morning. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Well, it's been a parade of storms coast to coast that's been impacting the holiday travel, and we still have that active weather pattern across the country. Today, we're focusing on this storm. It's a storm that's coming out of the Gulf Coast. It's going to be bringing another blast of snow for parts of the Midwest and heavy rain, even some freezing rains for parts of the Mid-South. This system today into tomorrow will move on east. It will be impacting the eastern coast of the U.S. It's going to be deepening. It's going to be turning into a coastal system, and we're expecting accumulating snow in the interior of the Northeast. Along the coast, we're expecting the precipitation to stay mostly as rain. So we have over 72 million people that are going to be impacted by these winter weather advisories, winter storm watches that we have in effect, stretching all the way from Kansas into Maine. And that's between today and tomorrow as the system develops and continues to move on east. So this is what we're expecting as far as the winter storm impacts. The heavy snow, as I said, is going to be mostly stretching along the Great Lakes into New England. And then we're expecting the rain along the I-95 corridor, heavy rain down south, and we even have some ice that can be impacting those parts of the area. Snowfall rates are going to be about around an inch an hour, so visibility will be low as some of the snow is falling. It's a quick hitting system. Most of the snow will fall Tuesday throughout the day, leaving accumulations of over half a foot of snow stretching mostly from the Poconos into parts of Maine. The other condition that we're really worried about is the chance of freezing rain, and that could also cause these treacherous driving conditions, mostly to develop here with accumulations of over approximately a quarter of an inch of ice, and that's for parts of Arkansas into parts of Charleston over here in West Virginia, also parts of northern Kentucky. The heavy rain will obviously be impacting mostly the south. We could have some areas 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Isolated risk of some flash flooding could develop. And then the other story is the December chill. We are dealing with really cold temperatures across much of the country. Here we can see temperatures that are departing from average more than 20 degrees over Arkansas. And we also have all these cold temperatures that will continue to move on eastward. And we're expecting temperatures by the end of the week that won't even reach the freezing point as high temperatures over here in New York and into the 40s in Charlotte, Richmond, in Lexington, Kentucky on Friday. We're looking at a high of only 39 degrees. So it's going to be very cold. The sun will be returning on Wednesday as that storm system exits. But then we have another storm system that's possibly going to be developing. This is the next system that's going to be moving in from the south, and then it could be bringing some more snow into the beginning of the weekend over parts of New England. So that's basically what we're expecting for the next couple of days. So we're continuing to see this active weather pattern for the first week of December. Back to you, Joe and Savannah.
There you go. Getting cold. Andrea, thank you so much.
Later this morning, Luigi Mangione will appear in a New York City courtroom. This hearing could play a pivotal role in what the jury sees at his upcoming state trial. He's accused of murdering a healthcare executive nearly a year ago and has pleaded not guilty. At stake in this hearing is whether some of the most critical evidence is admissible. Mangione's defense team is arguing certain evidence should not be allowed during trial because of how it was gathered. These hearings could last all week. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber reports on what's at stake.
Nearly 1 year after accused killer Luigi Mangione allegedly took his fatal shot, he's heading back to court ahead of what could be one of the most closely watched trials in decades. So closely watched that even a routine pretrial hearing is capturing attention. At the center of it, evidence from the moments he was captured inside a Pennsylvania McDonald's. The defense team arguing that Mangione was not read his Miranda rights right away, and that anything police learned in the roughly 17 minutes before then should not be allowed in court. They're also arguing that the evidence collected from his backpack, including what police describe as a 3D printed gun and a so-called manifesto, should be thrown out, since police didn't have a search warrant.
If you're a part of Luigi Mangione's defense team, is this a make or break moment for your case? This is huge. And if you're part of Mangione's defense team, you need to try and get anything thrown out that is possible.
A judge approved a request from Mangione's legal team allowing him to appear in court in civilian clothing.
Part of the argument is that there is so much publicity that if he's in prison clothes, even during the pretrial hearings, that could taint the jury pool.
He'll be given 2 suits, 3 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of socks, and 1 pair of shoes without laces. It's a far cry from his early court appearances in shackles, and a subtle reminder of the extraordinary public interest in the 27-year-old's murder trial. Ellison Barber, NBC News, New York.
Well, it is December 1st. The Christmas season is now in full swing, and it is the biggest online shopping day of the year. According to retail analysts, this Cyber Monday is on track to break records once again. Today, retailers are hoping to keep up the momentum from the weekend's busy holiday shopping kickoff as some big box stores turn to artificial intelligence to keep people clicking. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung has a closer look.
After a record-breaking Black Friday, shoppers are filling their carts for the king of the online shopping season. Cyber Monday expected to bring in over $14 billion in sales this year, when experts say you'll find the best deals on apparel and computers. And retailers are hoping to add a new spin to their sales events, leaning into artificial intelligence. In the weeks leading up to peak holiday spending, ChatGPT maker OpenAI partnered with Walmart and Target.
Let's say I'm a little bit overwhelmed at which plushie I want to get my 10-year-old nephew. Well, I can ask ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking to buy a really cute toy for my 10-year-old nephew, and it's going to give me some suggestions. At the very bottom, it'll even say Target, and you can shop right in the app on ChatGPT.
Over half of shoppers said in a recent survey they plan to use AI this year. Some saying they're using it already.
I talk to ChatGPT like they're a human being, and they respond to me the same way.
Others unsure about testing the tech.
AI does not know my family as well as I do.
This year, Amazon's offering its own chatbot called Rufus, where you can take a screenshot of a shopping list and automatically add those items to your cart.
AI is making the shopping experience more simple and easy and automated for our customers.
Cyber Monday this year, getting an AI upgrade. Brian Chung, NBC News.
More holiday news to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, deck the halls and check your wallets. Tariffs are making holiday decorating more expensive this year. Why business owners say it could even cost them their livelihoods.
Up first, though, after the break, new developments in talks to end the war in Ukraine as U.S. officials bring a peace plan to Russia. We'll have an update next. Stay with us.
We are back with what could be a pivotal week in the ongoing effort to end the Russia-Ukraine war. The Kremlin confirms President Trump's top envoy, Steve Witkoff, will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Moscow.
Those talks are coming after top officials from the U.S. and Ukraine held another round of discussions yesterday in Florida. But the Ukrainian delegation was led by a new face after President Zelensky's chief of staff and top negotiator was ousted last week in a corruption scandal. It's an issue that President Trump addressed when he gave an update on the talks aboard Air Force One.
Ukraine's got some difficult little problems. They have some difficult problems, but I think Russia would like to see it end, and I know Ukraine would like to see it end.
You just said that Ukraine has a little bit of problems.
Well, we have a corruption situation going on, which is not helpful.
And is that impeding the peace talks?
Well, I said it was going on for 3 years, right? Didn't I say it? For 3 years I said it, so I was way ahead of schedule. But I think that there's a good chance we can make a deal.
NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons has made his way to Moscow ahead of tomorrow's big meeting. Keir, as the president noted just there, Ukraine is facing these problems with the ongoing corruption crisis. How did that impact the talks with U.S. officials yesterday? I mean, what came out of that?
Well, I mean, Joe, inevitably impacted the talks, not least because the nature of Ukraine's group meeting with those U.S. diplomats changed. So that was significant. It's been noticed here in Moscow, crowed about even by Russian media and by the Kremlin. But in terms of the details of the talks and where they really are facing hurdles over territory and security, They got into that yesterday in those talks, and Secretary Rubio accepting that there are real challenges. Take a listen.
We continue to be realistic about how difficult this is, but optimistic, particularly given the fact that as we've made progress, I think there is a shared vision here that this is not just about ending the war, which is very important. It is about securing Ukraine's future, a future that we hope will be more prosperous than it's ever been.
That point there that he's making, Joe, about the question of how you get to a peace deal that has long-term staying power, I think that's crucial as we now prepare for talks here in Moscow.
Keir, looking ahead to tomorrow, to those talks, how is the Kremlin preparing? This meeting, it's going to be between President Putin and Steve Witkoff. Are there any indications here from Moscow that this updated peace framework could be acceptable to them?
Well, we've heard from President Putin last week, and what he did was effectively reiterate the demands that the Kremlin has made over a sustained period. For example, saying that Russia demands that it should have all of the Donbass region. It only occupies some of that region. Remember that Russia was responsible for that invasion of Ukraine, has taken somewhere between 20 and 25% of Ukraine, but still doesn't hold some of that region that it has openly said that it wants. In terms of tomorrow's talks, those kinds of questions, once again, as I mentioned, be a real hurdle. We expect Ushakov, the foreign minister here, too, for those talks, maybe some others. Another question, of course, is whether the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will be here with Witkoff for that meeting. That would be a very different dynamic, because up until now, we've seen Steve Witkoff, sit across the table from a panel of Russians, if you like. Be a different thing if there are two effectively American diplomats sitting at that table this time.
And Keir, these talks come after Ukraine actually attacked 2 Russian oil tankers with drones in the Black Sea over the weekend, as well as a major oil terminal. How is Moscow reacting to that? Could that harm the chances of a deal?
I think it doesn't honestly shift Russia's position in the sense that it would make Moscow less prepared to do a deal. It may well put pressure on the Russians, but ultimately what I am hearing from sources here in Moscow is that the Kremlin believes, and President Putin said this openly last week, that it will gain territory in Ukraine over time, and that therefore if it doesn't gain that territory through negotiations, it will gain it through war. Now, there are those looking closely at the front line who say, well, that will take a long time, that there is no sign that the Ukrainian front line is about to collapse, for example, as President Putin appears to think it might. But that being said, it is clear, because the Kremlin is being open about it, that President Putin believes that he can wait.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you very much. Well, in the Middle East, the death toll in Gaza continues to climb despite the ceasefire in place between Israel and Hamas. On Saturday, 2 Palestinian children were killed in southern Gaza after an Israeli strike hit close to a school sheltering displaced people. That's according to staff at Nasser Hospital, which received the bodies.
The health ministry in Hamas-ruled Gaza says more than 350 people have been killed in the enclave since the ceasefire took effect on October 10th. Those same officials say the death toll from Israel's offensive is now more than 70,000 people since the war began more than 2 years ago after the October 7th attack on Israel.
NBC News correspondent Hala Garani is in Tel Aviv with more on this. Hala, good morning. So first, just tell us about this latest activity on the ground. What explanation is the Israeli military providing for these recent strikes?
Well, as you mentioned, we've hit 70,000 dead in Gaza. And just to put things in context, we're talking about a population of 2 million people in a territory the size of Metro Atlanta, just so kind of our audience in the United States can understand the scope here and the magnitude of the deaths and the injuries. What the IDF is saying, and I've spoken to the Israeli military over the last several days, is that they are responding to Hamas ceasefire violations. However, on the ground, and we've been able to geolocate some of these strikes, we've spoken to sources inside of the besieged enclave who tell us that many of these strikes are hitting inside of the yellow line. That is the portion of the Gaza territory that the Israeli military is meant to have withdrawn from. The Israeli military still controls more than half of the Gaza Strip. There's also this question of the yellow line's location. Where is it? It's not a line per se. It's just kind of a set of cinder blocks that are painted yellow. And people on the ground are saying they find that system quite confusing, that sometimes these cinder blocks are moving back and forth, and some people have been killed approaching that yellow line by the Israeli military. You mentioned 2 children. Well, we understand from sources inside of Gaza that these 2 kids were close to that so-called yellow line and that they were killed trying to pick up firewood. So it's still very much a situation in Gaza where deaths are continuing to increase despite the fact that this later ceasefire deal came into effect, or was meant to have come into effect, on October 11th. Savannah and Joe.
And Hala, these outbreaks of violence aren't the only danger that Gazans are facing. We know hunger remains a major struggle. A bitter winter is coming. Are Gazans even starting to get some of the aid they need?
They are. There is some relief. There isn't that acute starvation situation that we were seeing when the Gaza Strip was completely besieged. That has changed for the better. Some of the soup kitchens are getting more supplies. However, it has to be said that UNICEF, for example, a couple of days ago said that 12,000 children in Gaza under the age of 5 are still suffering from acute malnutrition. Now, Gazans can't farm land. They can't fish in their waters as freely as they once were able to, so they can't feed themselves. So they're entirely reliant on these trucks coming in. And the complaint is that the deal called for unimpeded and full access into the Gaza Strip of some of these supplies, whether they are food, whether they are medicine, and that has not happened. Savannah and Joe.
Hala, in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu submitted a request for a formal pardon yesterday in this years-long corruption trial, and that comes right after President Trump just a couple of weeks ago had said he should be pardoned. Remind us what charges Netanyahu is facing and what could happen next here.
So this has been the big news across Israel today, and that is that the Prime Minister here, Benjamin Netanyahu, sent a letter to the Israeli Prime Minister Isaac Herzog asking for a pardon. He didn't, we understand, express contrition or anything like that in the letter. He is petitioning President Herzog and requests, and I'm quoting here exactly, quote, an end of the trial. Now, the big question is going to be if this pardon is granted, and these are corruption trials related to accepting gifts and favors in exchange for better treatment or for contracts or for, helping some political allies, for example, gain more influence in the media. If this pardon is granted, what will the counterpart be? Will Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, be asked to retire from political life? Will he be told to retire from political life, but for a certain period, not indefinitely? Those are all open questions. But I can tell you here that already we are hearing a lot of pushback among ordinary Israelis against this idea. And if it indeed does happen, it'll be very interesting politically to see what that means, not just for him as an individual, as a politician, but for all the wars that Israel is waging, the situation in Gaza, as well as the West Bank. Back to you.
All right, Hala, thank you. Coming up, a federal vaccine overhaul that could impact your kids. The FDA says it plans to change the rules when it comes to childhood vaccines. Our Dr. Azar joins us next with what those changes could mean. Next on Morning News Now. We're back with an important and controversial health alert about vaccines. The FDA says it plans to overhaul the current rules. It released a memo on Friday that claims the COVID vaccine is linked to the death of no less than 10 children. There's no evidence, though, to support those claims. The memo comes as a CDC advisory panel is set to meet this Thursday to discuss the childhood vaccine schedule. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler explains.
The FDA claiming without evidence that COVID shots are linked to at least 10 children's deaths and vowing new vaccine rules because of it. In an internal memo obtained by NBC News, the director of the FDA's vaccine division, Dr. Vinay Prasad, alleges no fewer than 10 deaths reported to the agency between 2021 and 2024 were related to the COVID vaccine.
It appears 10 deaths of children from the COVID shot. We're going to make that information available. Those cases were reviewed.
The memo did not include the children's ages or medical history, did not identify the vaccine manufacturer, and these findings have not been published in a peer-reviewed journal. An HHS spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Experts maintain COVID vaccines are safe.
Parents can be confident in the safety of the COVID-19 vaccines.
But now, Dr. Prasad says the agency will change how it evaluates vaccines, including revising the annual flu vaccine framework. The memo says pneumonia vaccine makers will have to show their products reduce pneumonia rather than create antibodies alone.
They can just make it not a very good business proposition, and people will stop making vaccines.
The American Academy of Pediatrics telling us they are concerned that the newly proposed requirements could limit children's access to safe, proven vaccines. More than 1 million Americans have died from COVID-19, including more than 2,000 children. The memo becoming public just before the CDC Vaccine Advisory Panel is set to discuss the childhood vaccine schedule and hepatitis B shot. Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Let's talk more about this with NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good to have you with us. So in this FDA memo, the doctor accused the agency of ignoring safety concerns for years. But on the other side, you've got several medical experts who are calling the memo dangerous. They're saying it's irresponsible. Help us understand this memo that was obtained by NBC News. And does it include evidence explaining how the FDA is making its conclusions right now?
So I think the most important thing, Joe, that I want our viewers and listeners to understand is where the information came from that is in this memo, and is something called the VAERS, which is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. And it is important. It's one tool that the FDA has or uses to identify what we refer to as a signal. That is, that could there be some adverse event that's happening related to vaccines that we're picking up in the general population. In fact, it was one way that the FDA identified that particular side effect that was associated with the J&J vaccine, that clotting abnormality, and the J&J vaccine recommendations were altered because of that. But we have to remember, this is a passive open submission system. That means that anyone, you or I, your aunt, your uncle, anybody can submit a report and say, I had the vaccine and this happened afterwards. That is not how we assign causality. And that's the most important thing here, is what methodology did they use? They can say there's an association or link, but cause and effect, which is what they're basically stating, there is absolutely no way that they can draw that conclusion from a VAERS report, which is why we, listening to this, are so concerned about the fact that this has been made public.
What is important, Dr. Azar, for people to understand about its context? That was helpful there, but for parents and stuff who are reading this, what should they know about what went on around this report?
Well, I think what was missing from the report and sort of an analysis or a summary from Dr. Prasad is the actual evidence that we have, what we call in medicine evidence-based recommendations and guidelines based on a lot of data covering over 10 million children throughout the pandemic that showed that vaccines, the COVID vaccine, dramatically reduced ICU admissions, hospitalizations, that severe inflammatory syndrome that can occur, and other severe outcomes. There were thousands of pediatric deaths related to COVID, more than we really see with flu over the same time period in children. So to suggest that the vaccine had no benefit or impact, to omit that, I should say, is just, it's really irresponsible.
So
that's,
with this,
the best way I can say it, Savannah.
So with this in mind, what are some of the vaccine rule changes the FDA could make here, and what could that mean for kids getting vaccinated across the country moving forward?
I think the biggest thing that we learned from the last advisory committee meeting is that this HHS department, this FDA, this CDC seems kind of hell-bent on really disrupting the vaccine schedule as we know it, with this idea that we are giving too many vaccines too close together. And so one of the things that I think most of us will be listening to very carefully during Thursday's meeting is, are they going to suggest that we start separating all of these vaccines? You know, we in the medical field, we understand that giving these vaccines together is safe and effective, and we worry about losing patients who aren't going to come up for their follow-up booster shots, number one. Number two, it's the hepatitis B vaccine. That's going to be the big one, guys, on Thursday. There is this big push, again, from this administration to question the safety and effectiveness of that birth dose of the hepatitis B vaccine, which has been shown over the last number of decades to dramatically reduce the incidence of hepatitis B in children. Other things that they're looking at are stricter requirements for vaccine approval in pregnancy. The pneumonia vaccine is one of them, you know, sort of saying we need to show that it's safe and effective at reducing pneumonia, not just producing what we call antibody titers to protect against disease. A lot of things that have been sort of, I don't want to say dogma, but really accepted science and medicine over the last number of years. We're expecting a potential overhaul of that.
All right. Dr. Azar, good to have you with us to walk us through this. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Let's stay on health news. An Illinois congresswoman is pushing new legislation to help protect expecting mothers, particularly black women, during and after they give birth. The bill, which is set to be introduced in the House this week, is named after one black mother who was forced to give birth on the side of the road after a hospital in Indiana discharged her while she was in labor. NBC News Daily anchor Zincle Esamoah has the details.
Our healthcare system is broken. Black women across the country are suffering and dying.
An intimate moment of pain captured for the world to see is now sparking legislative change.
Mercedes' courage propelled me to introduce new legislation to protect all moms.
A black woman, Mercedes Wells, labored for 6 hours at Franciscan Health Crown Point Hospital in Indiana before she was discharged without ever seeing a doctor. Minutes later, she gave birth in her car. The video prompted backlash, and one day after our NBC News report,
Clay, what'd you learn?
Yeah, Tom. Change. The hospital's president and CEO apologizing to Wells and her family, firing involved hospital staff, and mandating cultural competency training for all labor and delivery staff. And now there's new legislation, the Wells Act, announced by Illinois Representative Democrat Robin Kelly.
This is a pretty swift response to an incident that happened just over a week ago. Why now? Why is this so important? And what's in it?
I've been working on the issue of maternal mortality and morbidity for about 9 years. So this is just another chapter. It needs to be done.
Yeah.
Nothing to play around with.
The Women Expansion for Learning and Labor Safety Act seeks to require any hospital that provides obstetric, emergency, or labor and delivery services to have a safe discharge labor plan before discharging a patient who presents with signs or symptoms of labor. It also mandates racial bias training for healthcare professionals.
Why do you think this will have bipartisan support? Is this an issue that resonates?
Too many women, period, die in the United States. We don't rank well with countries like us. So women are interested. I mean, all kind of women die, but black women die more.
The lawmaker's office drafting the legislation after seeing video of Mercedes Wells, an Illinois resident and constituent of Representative Kelly. The two appearing in a press conference. The lawmaker has led maternal health legislation through Congress before, including the Maternal Health Quality Improvement Act, which passed in 2022, and she reintroduced the Care for Moms Act, which is not yet passed.
Still, the numbers are very, very bad for black women in the United States, still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than their white counterparts. So it seems that the legislation is not doing enough. What's missing? What's the missing link here?
Well, I mean, racism is a big link of it, systemic racism, and that's what we have to work on.
Why has this been so important for you to champion as a mother, as a lawmaker?
I had no idea that this was happening until someone called me up and said, I want to tell you a story. I did not realize it was such an issue. And I hit the ground running and just learned how many people have been impacted by this.
All right, thanks to Zincle for that report.
Coming up on Morning News Now, a holiday dilemma for business owners across the country.
It has been the most stressful, difficult, challenging year of 23 years of businesses that we ever had.
When we return, how the ongoing trade war is impacting small business sales at a critical time of year. We'll be right back. We are back with a live look at our little backyard tree here at Rockefeller Center because it is December 1st. The Christmas season is in full effect. So is holiday decorating, right? But this year, because of tariffs, that is all costing more. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Roman spoke to two business owners who said they don't know if their holiday decor business will survive after this holiday season.
From those holiday lights to the Christmas tree and even the gifts that go under it, tariffs making almost all of it more expensive this season.
This first one is from Indonesia. That's 19%. Myanmar landed at 40%.
At Village Lighting in West Valley, Utah, the holiday decorations they import and sell.
There's one from India. That one hurt the most at 50% tariffs.
Got a lot more expensive this year.
It has been the most stressful, difficult, challenging year of 23 years of businesses that we ever had. So it's just a two-pack.
And owners Jared and Donita Hendricks are paying the price.
Who pays the tariffs?
We pay the tariff.
And they're not alone, with many retailers passing on some of those price increases to customers this year. The price of an artificial Christmas tree, 10 to 20% higher. And Christmas lights could cost 63% more this year. In fact, 87% of all Christmas decor is made in China, meaning it's subject to a more than 30% tariff. The Hendricks are only raising prices 3 to 5% where they can, mindful that shoppers are exhausted by inflation.
They have to buy groceries. People don't have to buy a new wreath for Christmas.
After having their best season ever last year, this year for the Hendricks is not looking so bright.
What have tariffs done to your business this year?
So it took a modest business that has grown every year for 23 years and flipped it upside down to the point where we don't know if we can survive.
Christine Romans, NBC News, West Valley, Utah.
Some more business news. This year, Black Friday shoppers turn to AI to stretch every dollar and find the best deals online.
NBC's Emily Lors joins us live with that and other money headlines for our Money Minute. Ham, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. That is right. Many Black Friday shoppers this year skipped the crowds and instead turned to AI, and it paid off in record spending. Americans shelled out nearly $12 billion online, up more than 9% according to Adobe. That's as AI tools helped inflation-weary shoppers compare prices and hunt for deals. AI-driven traffic to retail sites surged more than 800%. And globally, these tools influenced more than $14 billion in sales. And airlines worldwide canceled and delayed flights after Airbus recalled 6,000 A320 family jets, more than half of the global fleet, requiring software fixes. That's after an incident on a recent JetBlue flight revealed the jet's vulnerability to solar flares. It's the broadest emergency recall in Airbus history, causing travel disruptions during the busy Thanksgiving weekend. Airbus says the majority of the aircrafts have now received the necessary modifications. Finally, tonight's Powerball jackpot is soaring. Setting up one of the biggest prizes of the year, the jackpot has climbed to $740 million after no one matched all 6 numbers in Saturday's drawing. One Florida player did match 5 numbers, winning $1 million. Tonight's drawing offers a nearly $350 million cash value. However, the odds of hitting that jackpot remain about 1 in 292 million, guys. So
yeah,
doesn't
here we
seem
go
like
again.
We keep doing this.
The odds don't change, by the way, when the jackpot grows. Yeah. Always the same.
Yeah. Still, sometimes it gives me a feeling that maybe I'll win.
You're just more likely to split it if you win. Good
point.
Thanks, Emily.
You. Well, coming up, an NFL linebacker back on the field after tackling a major health scare.
Yeah, up next, more on his triumphant return just weeks after cancer surgery and how his experience is inspiring a new game plan to raise awareness. You are watching Morning News Now. Finally this hour, the Denver Broncos won an overtime thriller last night on Sunday Night Football, beating the Washington Commanders. That victory was made even sweeter by the return of their linebacker, Alex Singleton.
Singleton underwent surgery to remove a tumor and is now speaking out about his cancer diagnosis to help raise awareness. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the story.
Hey there, we've got an incredible story about an NFL star's comeback on and off the field.
Alex Singleton there for the Broncos.
On the field, Broncos linebacker Alex Singleton looks unstoppable.
Singleton battled the big tight end.
He's the team's co-captain and leading tackler.
Singleton ripped up through the catch.
But just weeks ago, a surprise setback took him out of the game. Singleton telling reporters in a conference call,
"It's been a whirlwind."
It started with a letter left in his locker, a routine NFL drug test finding elevated levels of a hormone called HCG, which makes testosterone, an indication of either a banned substance or, as his doctor told him just before a big game, cancer.
The first thing I said was, I still want to play Thursday. The biggest thing for me was, how to get my mind off of it.
Singleton kept going, suiting up and helping to propel his team to a win. And the very next day, surgery to remove the tumor. Now, number 49, pivoting from defense to offense, sharing his testicular cancer diagnosis to raise awareness, writing, "If it helps one person decide to pay closer attention to their body, then it is well worth it." Less than a month later, Singleton is cancer-free, saying he couldn't have tackled this opponent without his teammates, his wife, and 9-month-old daughter, who inspired him at every step.
Cancer is a scary word. It still is. It still, freaks me out, even just saying it. So attacking it with a positive mindset is, the best way to do it.
And he made his comeback at the Broncos game on Sunday night before his 32nd birthday next Sunday with so much to celebrate. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you so much. Amazing that he's already back on the field. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for starting your week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, holiday travel trouble. A winter storm surge is disrupting travel across the U.S. Millions of Americans under winter weather alerts from the Rockies to New England. Heavy snow and frigid temperatures disrupting thousands of flights and bringing dangerous road conditions to the Midwest as travelers head home after Thanksgiving. We're going to bring you the latest forecast and who should brace for the worst of the storm. Also this hour, growing tensions over strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean. President Trump standing by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth following reports of a second strike on one boat to kill everyone on board. All as President Trump declares Venezuela's airspace, quote, closed in its entirety and weighs military action against the South American country. We have the details from Washington. The administration also working to end the war in Ukraine as that conflict enters yet another winter. The Kremlin now confirming Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. What we can expect from that encounter coming up. And finally, today isn't just December 1st, it's also Cyber Monday. We're going to bring you all the best deals and discounts you can find online to check off everyone on your gift list this holiday season. Funny thing is, we started Cyber Monday in an effort to try to get people to shop online. That worked. Yeah. Now we're all shopping online, and now we just get the good deals.
There you go. I've got a busy afternoon looking online.
There you go. Let's begin this hour with some nasty winter weather making its way across the country. It's causing all sorts of headaches for the millions of Americans trying to get home after the holiday.
Yeah, major storms slammed the Midwest over the weekend, bringing a record amount of snow and ice. One of the worst spots, look at this, a 50-car pileup. This was on Interstate 70 in Indiana. The storm also caused thousands of flight cancellations and delays. NBC News meteorologist Andrea Romero will have your complete forecast in just a moment. But first, NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, where over 1,700 flights were delayed just yesterday alone. Hey, Maggie, good morning.
Hey there from Chicago O'Hare, practically the epicenter of the holiday travel mess this weekend. We had more than 8.5 inches falling at this airport since Saturday. And by the way, Saturday alone marking the snowiest November day on record here. Thousands of flights have been canceled and delayed since, with those post-holiday travel headaches rippling nationwide. This morning, the weekend winter wallop that buried the Midwest now wreaking havoc on post-holiday travel.
Sat there for about 4 or 5 hours, and then they said they just couldn't make it out.
I miss my kids and my husband back home in South Carolina.
At Chicago's O'Hare Sunday, more than 1,700 flights delayed. On Saturday, nearly 1,300 canceled.
This is the first time this has ever happened to me, but another aircraft struck us.
Kelly Allspaw recorded her pilot telling passengers another plane slid into her American Airlines flight from Chicago to Arkansas.
Y'all felt it. It slid into us because of the ice on the tarmac.
A similar scare in Iowa with this Delta flight.
Yeah, we're slipping a little bit.
no injuries reported in either incident. All this during the final leg of a record holiday travel surge. With travelers rushing to flights, traffic also backed up around airports. In Nashville, passengers getting out of cars to walk to the terminal. And it wasn't just roads around airports that were gridlocked. Highways across the Midwest littered with crashes this weekend, including this nearly 50-car pileup on Indiana's I-70.
We are seeing cars slide off, hit the concrete median barriers. They're hitting guardrails.
Snow and ice spreading into the Northeast with more storms expected there later this week. This as millions try to enjoy the early whiteout, from the spectacle created at college football games to zoo animals making snow angels. Days after Thanksgiving, huge swaths of America already looking a lot like Christmas. All right, so back to air travel. How are the numbers looking this morning? Around 7 a.m., delays and cancellations combined had already topped 1,000. So we're keeping an eye on those numbers as well. And by the way, one final headline that's adding to delays and cancellations. You might have read about the Airbus software glitch that's required airlines nationwide implement a software update on hundreds of that company's planes, adding to delays and kind of these travel impacts. The company's CEO over the weekend apologizing to customers. Back to you.
Maggie, thank you.
For more on today's conditions, let's get a look at your Morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Andrea Romero is here in studio. Hey there, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah, Joe. Well, the weather woes continue for millions of people across the country. In fact, 72 million people will be impacted by these winter weather alerts. We're talking about winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, winter storm warnings that are in effect all the way from the Midwest into New England. So what are we talking about today? Well, we have right now some snow falling close to Wichita, moving into Kansas City. We also have some freezing rain further south. In fact, we have this Gulf Coast system that will be developing throughout the day. It's going to be bringing some heavy rain, some freezing rain over the Mid-South. Of course, we have this wintry blast still here over the Midwest, and we're expecting the storm to develop and intensify into a coastal low between today and tomorrow, and it's going to be deepening as it does move off the coastline, and it's going to be bringing some accumulating snow mostly to the interior of the Northeast. So what are the winter storm impacts we're expecting? Heavy snow stretching from Kansas all the way up to Vermont. We're looking at also some rain along the coast and some ice in some areas close to West Virginia, parts of Virginia, and even parts of Kentucky. So the heavy snow, we're looking at snowfall rates of over an inch per hour that could fall. It's going to be a quick hitting system. We're expecting most of the snowfall here over New England and parts of the eastern coast to fall tomorrow throughout the day, where the accumulations, the axis of the heaviest precipitation will stretch from the Poconos into parts of Maine, where up to over half a foot of accumulation can be expected. Of course, treacherous road conditions due to icing because of that freezing rain, as I mentioned here in parts of West Virginia, also parts of Roanoke in Virginia, Lexington, Kentucky, and of course, over parts of Arkansas, even parts of Oklahoma can see some icing. And then we have that heavy rain with few areas that can see 2 to 3 inches, the possibility of some isolated flood risks that can extend from Houston all the way into Atlanta. We can even have some heavy rain into Norfolk, Virginia. Now, aside from the stormy weather, we also have the cold. We have this December chill. We have the jet stream south of us, opening the air to this Arctic air. Temperatures are going to be cold throughout basically the rest of the week across the country, especially over the Midwest. Back to you, Joe and Savannah.
Andrea, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, in Washington, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are demanding answers about a deadly U.S. boat strike near Venezuela that some legal experts say may have been a war crime. Yesterday, President Trump denied reports that his defense secretary ordered a second attack to kill those who managed to survive the first deadly blast. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is with us with the details. Hi, Gabe. Good morning.
Hi there, Savannah. Good morning. There is growing bipartisan backlash. It's not just Democrats demanding answers about the escalating American military buildup in the Caribbean. Now, even some top Republicans are questioning whether the U.S. airstrikes have violated the law by allegedly targeting survivors who had already been incapacitated. This morning, President Trump defending his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, amid mounting scrutiny of U.S. boat strikes near Venezuela.
I have great confidence.
The controversy centering on September 2nd strikes on a boat the Trump administration alleges was carrying illegal drugs. On Friday, the Washington Post reporting, citing two sources, that after the first strike left survivors, a second strike was conducted to comply with a Hegseth order to kill all on board. Trump responding on Air Force One.
He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
And asked if the second strike would be legal.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike.
Hegseth posting our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful. In a rare break with the president, Republican leaders of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees are pledging rigorous oversight.
I don't think he would be foolish enough to make this decision to say, kill everybody, kill the survivors, because that's a clear violation of the law of war.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
Over the past few months, U.S. boat strikes have killed more than 80 people. The Trump administration says the attacks are necessary to fight drug cartels, but has not provided evidence of its allegations about the boats. The U.S. has also been sending thousands of troops to the Caribbean. The president now posting that all airlines should consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed. Asked whether that meant an airstrike was imminent.
Don't read anything into it.
For his part, Hegseth is brushing off the controversy over the alleged second strike. Overnight, posting this meme of a children's cartoon, Turtle, targeting narco-terrorists. You see it right there. President Trump, meanwhile, is confirming that he recently spoke by phone with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, though he did not share details of their conversation. Savannah?
All right, Gabe, thank you very much.
A manhunt is underway in California after a shooting at a children's birthday party. 4 people were killed, including 3 children, and investigators say the shooting might be gang-related. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson is in Stockton, California, where the shooting happened. Steve, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. This is a manhunt for a person that authorities say had no problem repeatedly pulling the trigger in a room full of families and children. The city's mayor tells us the city will stop at nothing to bring whoever did this to justice.
We are the family of the city of Stockton.
Overnight, a community gathering to mourn after a horrifying shooting in Stockton, California.
These animals walked in and shot children at a children's birthday party. And none of us should stand for that.
This morning, 15 confirmed victims, 4 of them killed, the youngest just 9 and 8 years old.
We believe that it was a targeted incident, a targeted shooting.
Officials say there were at least 100 people at the gathering, and so far no confirmed suspects. But authorities say there may have been multiple shooters in the attack that started inside the banquet hall and spilled out into the street.
I saw a few cars pull up, some parents coming up and being very, very upset, crying, asking where their kids are.
Gang violence is suspected.
I have been told by individuals who were invited there were people there who had ties in the gang community.
Do we think this instance of violence was directly because of that gang affiliation?
It was due to a beef between individuals. They wanted to send a message.
Authorities now asking for the public's help. And officials say they're intent on justice.
Whoever did this, you don't need to see the light of day again.
God, you said in your
This
word,
weekend, a community that had been celebrating life, now in mourning.
There is no mother, there is no guardian that should have to watch their child be gunned down at a birthday party. It's devastating for our city.
And the mayor not shy in telling me that gangs are a problem here. She says that over 100 gangs are operating in this part of California alone. Meanwhile, there's a $25,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest. Joe.
All right, Steve, thank you so much.
Well, this morning, Luigi Mangione is due back in court for what will be a critical pretrial hearing. A New York judge will hear arguments over whether some key pieces of evidence can be used at Mangione's murder trial. The 27-year-old is accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO almost 1 year ago. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk is outside the Manhattan courthouse where today's hearing is taking place. Hey, Steph, good morning.
This is an important hearing in this murder case. The defense is arguing that key pieces of evidence, including a gun, bullets, and alleged writings from Mangione, be thrown out and not used in the case. Prosecutors say that in those writings, Mangione spells out how he's going to murder the health insurance executive.
This morning, Luigi Mangione, the accused killer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is expected back in state court as his defense team asks for key pieces of evidence to be suppressed, including everything discovered in his backpack when police arrested the 27-year-old at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Among the items, a gun, bullets, and a red notebook. These newly released photos from a police body cam show Mangione sitting at a corner table wearing a face mask as police confront him. In court documents, defense attorneys say those officers searched his backpack without obtaining a search warrant and did not immediately read Mangione his Miranda rights. Prosecutors say the alleged killer wrote out his plans to murder the insurance executive in the notebook found in his backpack, including an entry where Mangione allegedly wrote someone should whack the CEO. Prosecutors say the search was justified, in part because police were concerned for their safety. The defense is calling it a violation of their client's constitutional rights.
Not guilty.
Mangione pleaded not guilty to state murder charges in New York, gun charges in Pennsylvania, as well as a federal murder charge that can carry the death penalty. It has been nearly a year since the fatal shooting, and interest in the case remains high, with multiple documentaries.
You could see that it was not a professional hit.
And supporters still back Mangione, with a fund for his legal defense receiving daily donations amounting to more than $1 million. According to his legal team, the Ivy League grad has been keeping track of more than 6,000 letters he's been sent in jail. Now all eyes will be on the Manhattan courtroom, where a judge will decide if crucial evidence can be used when the murder case finally goes to trial.
What to look for today, Luigi Mangione is likely going to be in a suit. He asked for special permission to wear civilian clothes, and he was given that permission. Also, this is probably not going to be over today. It's going to stretch on for days, and at the end of it, we may get a date for trial. Back to you.
All right, Steph, thank you so much. Well, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris for more on today's hearing. Misty, good morning. Always great to have you with us. So let's start by digging into the big thing here, this key thing at this hearing, whether this evidence will be found admissible. What are we going to hear from both sides arguing?
So what the prosecution is arguing on both fronts is that a warrantless search of Luigi Mangione's backpack should be admissible evidence because there was a reasonable belief that there was a threat to the police officers when they were arresting him. So the default rule, this is what the defense will argue, is that they needed a warrant to open that backpack. And they violated his constitutional rights by searching it without obtaining the warrant first. There's many exceptions to that rule. You'll hear the prosecutors lay them out. The other issue is whether or not statements Luigi Mangione made to police officers before he was read his Miranda rights, and the defense says he had 15 to 17 minutes where he was communicating with police officers and the rights weren't read. All of those statements should be precluded. Prosecution says that he wasn't in custody during that time, so some of that will come in. So those are the two huge constitutional issues that will be at play today.
If that critical evidence is removed from the case, what would that mean for prosecutors? What would they have to focus on instead?
So the prosecutor's case changes dramatically because let's go over what's in that backpack.
Right.
The gun, the bullets, a silencer, and a red notebook, which is being called the manifesto. That notebook includes statements, according to what we know, these parasites simply had it coming. The insurance industry is perfect. This is where I can make a statement. So all of those things really read like a confession. So that really changes how prosecutors approach the case. Also, they wouldn't have the murder weapons. They'll be relying on all that video that we saw publicly to put it together.
Absolutely. Misty, we heard from Steph there this could last days. I mean, is that normal for this type of hearing? What do you anticipate seeing?
So a MAP hearing and a Huntley hearing, these are big hearings for defendants. It's not unusual for them to be longer than your typical procedural hearing. We're going to hear from a lot of witnesses, and this is not just, check a box, we get this done. There's cross-examination. So we're going to get a real preview of what the prosecution's case looked like and how the defense intends to poke holes
president.
More than $1 million has been raised for Mangione's defense fund, with all these people coming to support him. What does that kind of money mean for putting up a strong defense?
So obviously that helps him pay for it. The jury would never hear about it, but I will say that the intense publicity of this case has been coming into arguments relating to all of these evidentiary hearings, including him wearing layman's clothes for pretrial hearings and not just trials. So that pretrial publicity is factoring into a lot of what we're hearing as this case approaches trial.
All right, Misty Maris, great to have you as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, what a new study found about American teens and their trust in the news media.
Up first, Pope Leo wrapping up his first trip overseas. His message to leaders in Lebanon next. Welcome back. As the U.S. pushes to end the Russia-Ukraine war, the Kremlin says that President Trump's top envoy will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Moscow. Just yesterday, U.S. and Ukrainian officials held another round of talks in Florida. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from southern Ukraine. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. We are now in southern Ukraine, an area that is often attacked by Russian forces, and Ukrainians here and all across this country are closely following this latest peace initiative. It is the most serious peace process that has happened in this country since the war began nearly 4 years ago. But there are still many unanswered questions, in particular, how much territory Ukraine may be forced to give up in exchange for the peace deal. Overnight and over the weekend, Russia targeted Ukrainian troops and civilians, striking an apartment complex near Kyiv, killing one person and wounding others, including children, according to local officials. In Miami, President Trump's foreign policy team, Secretary Marco Rubio, envoy Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law Jared Kushner met with top Ukrainian officials for the second time in 2 weeks to end the war. They're trying to come up with a unified position after Trump's initial peace plan was slammed by Ukrainians and European allies as capitulation and surrender to Russia.
Much work remains, but today was again a very productive and useful session.
On Air Force One, President Trump said there's a good chance for a peace deal.
Ukraine's got some difficult little problems. I think Russia would like to see it end, and I know Ukraine would like to see it end.
Ukraine wants security guarantees so that Russia won't invade again. Ukraine is asking for a path to NATO membership. Trump says that's not an option and has proposed more vague alternatives. But Zelensky is in a weak spot. His chief of staff and top negotiator just resigned amid a corruption scandal, and Ukrainian troops have been slowly losing ground. Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine. The territory creates a so-called land bridge from Russia to Crimea, which Putin also snatched from Ukraine a decade ago. Putin is demanding that Ukraine voluntarily hand over more territory, land which Russia has failed to capture in battle, and for the world to recognize his conquests as legitimate. Ukraine's President Zelensky says that's a non-starter. Special Envoy Witkoff is due to be in Russia tomorrow to meet with Vladimir Putin to discuss the peace plan.
All right, Richard, thank you.
Well, in other international news, Pope Leo XIV is in Lebanon this morning for the final stop of his first overseas trip as pontiff. Christians from across the Middle East gathered yesterday to greet the Pope upon his arrival and really assert their presence in the region. His visit comes amid deep uncertainty as Israel bombards the country in its campaign against the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter is in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, with details from Pope Leo's visit, and I believe even potentially waiting right now for the Pope to head on by. Molly, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. That's right. We are in the center of the city, a huge police presence. People are lining these roads, hoping to get a glimpse of the American pontiff. And I'm hoping, Savannah, may even happen in the next couple of minutes. It is really quiet, no traffic out there, but he is expected to drive right behind me. He's heading to Martyrs Square, where he will hold an interfaith meeting with Muslim, Druze, and Christian leaders. Take a look.
This morning, high in the Lebanese mountains, Pope Leo visiting a Maronite Christian monastery. And later, Our Lady of Lebanon Shrine, which watches over Beirut's harbor. The crowds excited, undeterred by the rain. The pontiff, speaking in French, asking for peace, especially for Lebanon. The first American pope arrived in Beirut to a major state welcome. And in the pouring rain, Pope Leo giving a thumbs up. Lebanon is home to some of the oldest Christian churches in the world. In the capital, St. Anthony of Padua was badly damaged in the 2020 port explosion. Now repaired, Father Aboud will meet the Pope later today. When the church is open, he says, it's a sign of hope. When it's closed, we've lost a piece of our region. We have a mission with our Muslim brothers, a mission of dialogue, a mission of coexistence. In line with that mission, over the weekend in Istanbul, Pope Leo visited the Blue Mosque, but did not visibly pray alongside Muslim clerics like his predecessors. On the plane to Lebanon, he took a reporter's question about Israel, which continues to strike Lebanon on an almost daily basis despite a ceasefire. He reiterated the Vatican's long-standing support of a two-state solution, saying it was the only way out of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But for Christians here in Beirut, his visit is a bold act of solidarity.
It's a visit of hope. It's only a visit of restructuring or rebuilding our hopes and our dreams and the future of our children.
Now, Savannah, I'm keeping one eye on the road. We still haven't seen him, but everyone we talk to out here is looking for that hope that Pope Leo's visit will bring. In a couple of hours, he will meet with young people about growing the Christian faith among the young people. Tomorrow, though, is the main event, a huge mass on Beirut's waterfront. Savannah, they are expecting well over 100,000 people. Savannah.
All right, Molly, thank you so much.
Coming up, we're going to bring you the latest headlines out of Washington.
Yeah, that includes the latest state to redraw its congressional maps in favor of Republicans ahead of next year's midterm election. Stay with us. We are back now with a closer look at what is making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a close Trump ally in Congress announcing he won't seek re-election.
NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us now with that and some other Washington headlines. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's start off in Texas, where GOP Congressman Troy Nehls announced he's not going to run for re-election next year. Now, this is notable because Nehls is a close ally to President Trump. He supported things like putting the president's face on money and renaming Dulles Airport after Trump. Voters in his district may still be represented by a Congressman Nehls after next year, though. That's because his twin brother Trevor Nehls announced he'd jump into the race for the open seat. Let's head next to the White House, where President Trump said in a Truth Social post on Friday that he would pardon former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Hernandez was convicted in an American court last year on drug trafficking and weapons charges and sentenced to 45 years behind bars. He had been accused of working with drug traffickers to get more than 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. Trump said in a post that Hernandez was, quote, according to many people that I greatly respect, treated very harshly and unfairly. Finally, let's head to North Carolina, where a court ruled last week that the state is allowed to use a new congressional map that was redrawn by Republicans. Now, big picture here, the new map is expected to help Republicans flip a House seat in the midterm elections next year. That seat is currently represented by Democratic Congressman Don Davis. He responded to the court's decision, saying in a statement, quote, we will not let these blatant power grabs silence the voices of Eastern North Carolinians. And that's a look at what is making news in politics this morning, guys.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. A new study shows American teens do not like or trust the news media. The News Literacy Project finds, in fact, an overwhelming majority of teens have strong negative feelings toward the news media.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, these are the top words they use to describe today's journalism organizations: fake, crazy, boring, biased, and sad.
For more on this, let's bring in Howard Schneider. He's a journalism professor at Stony Brook University and the executive director of its Center for News Literacy. Professor, good to have you with us for this important conversation. So the data revealed one of the top issues teens have with the news. They don't think they do think journalists need to be more honest. They need to be unbiased. What else are we learning about their feelings toward news organizations?
Well, let me start by saying this is no surprise to me. If you look at what their parents believe. So while 70% of the students in this study say that the news media adds bias to its coverage of politics and social issues, 77% of their parents feel that way. And if you look at the number of students who feel the news media is unethical, it lies, you look at the attitude of their parents, 52% of Americans now believe that journalists misrepresent the facts. 28% believe journalists make up the facts. So in large part, these students are basically mimicking the views of their parents. So there's a bigger issue here beyond just the students.
Walk us through that a little bit more. Why teenagers don't trust the new media? Is there more going on than their parents' negative feelings?
Yeah, well, certainly there is a drumbeat, right, of politicians beginning at the White House and all the way down. You hear a drumbeat of fake news, fake news, fake news. And of course, we have a generation of teenagers who are living on social media, and they're living on the internet. And we know the following. We know that people who turn to the internet for news are more likely to get incorrect information. They're more likely to believe conspiracy theories. They're more likely to share information with no reflection. So there's kind of a perfect storm here. But I would say one more thing. When you look at this study, what's really interesting to me is that it's not born out of any kind of realistic assessment of the press. It's mostly born out of a lack of engagement and ignorance. Only 15% of the students in this study say they're engaged with the news. 30% say they never look at the news. So how can they make a decision about the ability of the news to cover anything fairly when they're not engaged with the news? That's part of the crisis.
Yeah, I mean, you put that in such a smart way there because, I mean, I'll come to the defense of us. We are incredibly fair, and what's happening is people are being pushed to sources that aren't fair. It's misinformation. And the title of this whole segment here is News Literacy. People aren't determining for themselves what's real, what's not. They're believing things that aren't true. Talk more about these risks of people when they have these negative attitudes toward the news, and then they move to these other sources that are less reliable.
Well, here's the risk to the country. People may look at this and say, well, the real risk here is to the credibility of the news media. That's the crisis. That's not the real risk. The real risk is the risk to the future of our country and democracy. So Stanford University has done major studies on the ability of students to judge the reliability of news and information on the internet, where they're overwhelmed with so much misinformation and disinformation. And their conclusion is that their ability is bleak, and that the researchers worry significantly about the future of democracy, with the notion that this spread of misinformation is so prevalent. So the real danger here is not, the crisis is not about the news media. And the news media, I was a journalist for 35 years. The news media has shortcomings. The crisis here is the crisis of democracy and the future of the country. And I would say that the real indictment here is an indictment of our educational system that has not prepared students for the transformative changes in the way they're getting and receiving information.
All right, we got to bring the kids back to us, though. They got to watch the news. That's how, like it just said on that graphic, you can be part of this shared civic life. What can be done to strengthen trust here?
We need to start with universal media literacy education in every school in America. We have 4 states that are now mandating this, but this is an urgent issue, and education kind of moves slowly. And so we need to start early. We need to start in middle school. At Stony Brook, we're partnering with 7 local school districts that have adapted our college curriculum in news literacy for their students. It's required instruction. 1 district is beginning in kindergarten, and that's the way we have to proceed.
I love that.
Wow,
starting in kindergarten right there, and then we'll get the adults to do it after that. Professor Howard Schneider.
Let the kids lead the way.
Yes.
Or let the children lead the way.
Love that. Professor Schneider, great to have you with us. Great conversation.
Fantastic conversation. Thank you. Coming up today, Cyber Monday, and after that record-breaking Black Friday, Americans are expected to spend big.
We're going to bring you the best deals and discounts to shop online today as this holiday shopping season officially gets underway. So stick around. We'll be right back.
We're back now with a look at how artificial intelligence has shaken up Hollywood ahead of the awards season. The industry is trying to add new guardrails as the technology continues to grow and raises questions about creativity, ownership, even the future of performance itself. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas sat down with one of the most influential musicians, in the world, Sting, to get his take.
Tilly Norwood, 100% AI generated.
From AI-created actresses and even journalists to real-life actors like Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine leaning into AI.
My name is Michael Caine.
Artificial intelligence isn't just knocking on Hollywood's door, it's already inside the studio. That fear that AI will disrupt the workforce isn't limited to Hollywood. A new study from MIT finding artificial intelligence can already replace 11.7% of the U.S. labor market. It's a concern musician Sting even brought up in a conversation with NBC News about his Broadway musical The Last Ship coming to the Met Opera this summer.
What do you hope the message of The Last Ship says to those in the UK and even here in the United States?
I think the real message of The Last Ship is the importance of community. I don't know the answer to the economic malaise that we are in, especially now with AI coming to take everybody's jobs away. I don't have that answer, but I know if there is an answer, it's about our community, helping each other.
Hollywood is, though, making moves to protect artists, with 2 Oscar-nominated films from last year, The Brutalist and Emilia Perez, drawing scrutiny for their use of AI. The Academy Awards this year will have new rules on using the technology. Voters instructed to take, quote, into account the degree to which a human was at the heart of the creative authorship when choosing which movie to award. Meanwhile, actors and writers unions have set up significant guardrails to protect against AI-generated scripts and actors seeking control over their likeness. But it hasn't kept big-name Hollywood actors from realizing AI is here to stay. Some now leaning into the technology, like Matthew McConaughey, who revealed earlier this month that he's using voice cloning technology from a company he's an investor in called 11 Labs for a Spanish-speaking version of his popular newsletter, Lyrics of Livin'.
Hablemos de traducciones.
McConaughey shared his views on AI on Joe Rogan's podcast earlier this year.
I very sparingly use it, and I do have a little pride about not wanting to use an open-ended AI to share my information so it can be part of the worldwide AI vernacular.
11 Labs also announcing actor Michael Caine will be among the voices added to its iconic marketplace.
I am thrilled to announce that my voice and I are joining 11 Labs. Try it for yourself.
A new service where anyone can pay to use a celebrity's AI-generated voice in content, from commercials to audiobooks. In addition to Caine, the company has AI-generated voices of other famous figures from the past, including Judy Garland.
Sometimes the road looks long.
And John Wayne.
Don't talk about doing the right thing, partner. Just do it.
11 Labs says it works with third-party licensing companies representing the celebrities featured in the service. AI comes at a time where Hollywood is in financial upheaval. October's box office hitting a 27-year low, leading to the question of if this new technology could be an easier and cheaper alternative. Even actresses like Emily Blunt telling Variety AI-generated actress Tilly Norwood is really scary. But Norwood's creator, Elaine Vandervelden, pushing back against the backlash, saying she's not looking to replace actors. As the industry tries to find a balance, musicians like Sting are still skeptical AI will fully replace artistry.
AI has become so big in music. A lot of people have a lot of opinions. I know you've actually talked about not being so sure about it when it comes to music.
You know, I would hear AI in a hotel lobby or an airport. It's fine. It's perfectly serviceable as pop music, but would I actually listen to it? There's a difference between hearing and listening. I'm not that interested in what a machine can do.
Chloe Malas, NBC News.
After record-breaking spending on Black Friday, millions of Americans are about to click and tap their way to even more savings today for Cyber Monday. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is at a Target fulfillment center in South Jersey. So, Brian, are folks expected to double down on spending today?
Yeah, Joe, this is amazing. This is huge. Over 2.5 million square feet of warehouse here at this Target fulfillment center in South Jersey. All that will be processing in approximately 1 million units to get these packages to your door. 60% of them going to be delivered next day. This is all part of the Cyber Monday where things are arriving faster than ever after a Black Friday where shoppers already have experienced the boost of this holiday retail spending. Now expectations for what could be a record-breaking Cyber Monday today as well. Round 2 of the retail rush is now underway.
This year, I spent hours and hours making the ultimate Black Friday Cyber Monday guide.
As Cyber Monday deals lure online shoppers with huge discounts.
It is my favorite time of the year. I love a sale.
Amazon already offering major markdowns, and Walmart and Target are all in too, with new deals as deep as 50% off popular tech, video games, and toys. Select Bose products, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo games, and Pokemon items.
Cyber Monday is a great day to shop for certain categories. Anything in the tech category, small and large home appliances, fall apparel and footwear, and beauty. I'm seeing a lot of good toy deals, and so I would look there as well.
Luggage sets, sports gear, winter clothing, and even cosmetics with 40, 50, or even 60% off the original prices too. Shoppers look poised to continue record-setting spending, with Black Friday sales up over 9% compared to last year.
We love seeing what the deals are.
And new AI technology also driving the shopping surge this year, with consumers shelling out nearly $12 billion online, smashing Black Friday records.
AI is making the shopping experience more simple and easy and automated for our customers.
Retailers are also working to get your package there sooner.
You know, when you're waiting on a package to arrive at your doorstep and you're just like this all day. Like, I'm watching the window right now.
Target touting unlimited same-day delivery, Walmart saying some items can be express delivered in as little as 30 minutes, and Amazon promising same-day delivery across 9,000 cities and towns. Experts say tariffs and inflation may be driving consumers to seek the deepest discounts ahead of the holidays.
People are worried about their wallets, so sale moments like this are really good because people have an opportunity to save a bit on their holiday gifts.
And with Cyber Monday now full speed ahead, shoppers are grabbing up colossal deals on screens all across the country on what could be another record-breaking day. And on the point of artificial intelligence, obviously companies like Target are employing that on the 8 miles of conveyor belts at facilities like this, but it's also technology that you can use at your fingertips as you're shopping as well. ChatGPT has a partnership with both Target and Walmart to allow you to do shopping as you're chatting with the chatbot, and Amazon has its own chatbot technology called Rufus, which is bringing a new modern twist to this year's Cyber Monday. Joe?
So, Brian, remind us, with so many deals out there today, what are the tools out there to make sure you're getting the best deal?
Yeah, well, look, there was interesting statistics coming from Wallet Hub last week that suggested 36% of those Black Friday deals are offering no actual discounts compared to a month ago. And that is in part because of a lot of these retailers that are offering these deal days even earlier than ever. So as you're going out and doing that shopping, make sure you're truly getting the best deal by taking a look at price comparison apps like Camel, as well as Google Shopping. And experts do tell us that on Cyber Monday, the categories that tend to get discounted the most, things like apparel as well as electronics. Joe?
Whoever came up with the title Camel deserves an award. All right, Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, some shopped, others flocked to the theaters. Many did both. Zootopia 2 had a massive Thanksgiving weekend debut.
I finally saw Wicked for good. It was great. NBC's Emily Lors joins us live with that and other money headlines. Sam, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. Not only a huge holiday weekend, but the box office just delivered one of its strongest Thanksgiving weekends ever. Fueled by Disney's Zootopia 2, which brought in an estimated $156 million. The weekend is projected to reach $294 million. And experts say both Zootopia 2 and Wicked for Good, soon joined by Avatar, Fire and Ash, should keep boosting ticket sales into Christmas, setting up a strong finish to the box office year. And a major shakeup in cloud computing today as Amazon and Google team up in a rare partnership The company has unveiled a new multi-cloud networking service that lets customers set up private high-speed links between their platforms in minutes, which could help during outages. A recent AWS outage in October disrupted thousands of websites around the world, costing U.S. companies up to $650 million. Software giant Salesforce and others are already on board, and Google says this is a step toward a more open cloud environment. Finally, a big move for the iconic In-N-Out. The West Coast burger chain is headed deeper into Tennessee. The company says it will open locations in Middle Tennessee by the end of the year and has plans for more openings early next year. It marks another step in In-N-Out's expansion beyond California. The chain continues growing into states like Colorado, Texas, and Idaho, and the company announced 2 years ago that it would expand to New Mexico by 2027. The East Coast, though, the CEO says, is off limits because the chain uses fresh meat and doesn't have a warehouse nearby that could facilitate that. And I know that is disappointing tons and tons of people here on the East Coast, especially those who have come from the West Coast. I know we got some fans over here.
I think it makes visiting there special because then it's not something you have every day.
Yeah, no, I just like the option. And I actually got to interview the president, Lindsay, and she was talking so much about how it is that they want to keep everything so fresh. But maybe one day, if they find a supplier closer.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed is right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, this morning we're going behind the scenes with an unexpected star member of the Baltimore Ravens organization that the team calls their secret weapon. Ebony Short is the team's seamstress. She makes sure each player's jersey and padding is customized to their liking. Her hard work is on display every time the team takes to the field. NBC's Peter Alexander spoke to her about giving up a job fitting costumes in Hollywood to be a part of the NFL.
3rd down and 10. Sanders takes a big hit, and he's picked off. In a game of hard knocks. There goes Henry. And eye-popping plays. The ball's out. If you don't measure up, things can quickly come unraveled. For the Baltimore Ravens, that's where Ebony Short comes in. Always making sure they leave no loose ends.
I try my best to watch it as a fan. But most of the time, I'm usually like,
the seam is pulling.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, that's so tight. Or, oh, why does his jersey look like this? What's going on?
Short is the Ravens director of uniform services. While almost every other NFL team sends its gear out for alterations, the Ravens have found a competitive advantage by keeping the job in-house, customizing their jerseys for better comfort and performance.
We've had players who, they're like, oh, I've always had padding or, there's some issue. And when we can figure it out and they're like, I've been trying to find a solve for this for years. They're like, this is the first time I've been able to get what I want. That's the best feeling for me.
The Ravens all-pro linebacker Roquan Smith says Short has improved his playing ability by sewing in pockets for his thigh pads.
Why is that a difference maker for you? Honestly, I think it's just something that mentally that I need. And when I first got here, then it was oh, she can do that for you because most people don't just have them in. And it makes me feel good, honestly. And if you feel good, you play better. Absolutely. What's the most common request?
Everyone wants their arms open. We need full mobility.
Free range.
Free range. We don't want anything getting in the way because we got to make those one-handed catches.
Just steps away from the practice field, Short leads a team of 5 seamstresses, sewing jerseys to give defenses less to grab a hold of, stitching on patches, even painting cleats, whatever a player may need.
Just this one on this side and the knee pad on this side.
And like the Ravens marching down the field in the closing minutes, here it's also a race against the clock.
Oh, yeah. There's been times that we're still doing alterations on Saturday morning before they're loading onto the plane. And so that's my heart's racing. And
I can just imagine you chasing the plane down the tarmac, down the runway. Oh, my God,
no. That's when we're turning it over in a matter of an hour or two.
In short, the Ravens found a real-life needle in a haystack. Still, for all the NFL's lights and action, she's no stranger to showtime. After graduating from New York's Parsons School of Design, Short worked on Broadway, creating costumes for hit shows like Wicked, Hamilton, and The Lion King.
You were responsible for the Lion King hyenas, right?
Hyenas were my bread and butter. Most of the build of a hyena is all padding. It's just padding that then fits around a human body, right? And so it's kind of funny that much larger padding for sure now kind of to be here, and it's smaller.
I was going to say, if there's anything in common, though, from your days at the Lion King to your days at the NFL, it's the padding.
It's the padding.
By 2019, Short was ready for a change, planning to move out west to work in Hollywood. But when this Baltimore native heard about the Ravens job, she called an audible.
This was just an opportunity that I could not have ever expected or foreseen, and I was like, I've got to know what this is about.
That's when it all came full circle. The daughter of a Pop Warner coach whose brothers played throughout college, finally getting her shot to get in the game.
What I love is you grew up in a family of a football coach and football players.
Yeah.
And the only one who ended up in the NFL is you.
Is his daughter. That's which is it's like amazing, actually.
Passion, now her profession.
When you watch the Ravens run out onto the field, home or away, for you, that is showtime.
It's really exciting to just have them ready to go. I've done everything that I can do, and now it's time for them to come home with a win.
If there are other NFL teams listening to this conversation right now, getting ideas, what do you say to them?
Just don't take Ebony.
I love that. Our thanks to Peter Alexander for that report. They say football is a game of inches. Well, the same applies to those names on each jersey. Ebony says the letters are exactly a quarter inch apart. Isn't that cool?
It is, which is more noticeable for the folks who have the much longer names.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up, at first glance, this viral image we're going to show you may look like AI. It's not. It is a real photograph of a skydiver in free fall.
Yeah, this guy got this once-in-a-lifetime shot of his apparent flight too close to the sun. Next. Welcome back. We'll end this hour with a photo captured in southern Arizona that's gone viral for its jaw-dropping imagination and execution.
Reporter William Pitts from our NBC affiliate in Phoenix spoke with the pair who teamed up to get the shot to hear how it was done.
Well, maybe we can get an aircraft in the shot. And we were both kind of thinking about it, like, it's kind of lame. It's been done before. But what if we get somebody jumping out of the plane in the shot? Once we figured out it was possible, it was just a matter of figuring out the math of the proper distance and altitude to fly, and then, of course, what time and day to fly.
Right there, I see you. All right. That's good. Okay.
Somewhere in southern Arizona.
3, 2, 1, go.
The math added up.
Oh, my God.
Bro!
Nailed it. He's alive. That's good. That was step 2. I got it, dude.
What Andrew and Gabe got has never been shot before. A skydiver, Gabe, dropping in front of an ultra-high-resolution sun, taken with a special telescope.
A few people have asked if they call me Icarus now.
Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and fell to Earth.
Yes, Gabe!
At least Gabe had a parachute.
And there was a point where I was like, well, yeah, what am I doing? But I was so focused on getting the shot, I just kind of put that in the back of my mind, you know?
It took 6 tries to get the ultralight aircraft in the right spot. After all, they had to be in exactly the right position, not even a couple feet off. But when Gabe jumped, that was it. One click.
So, crazy enough, we got it on the first jump.
Like, I knew, and when he said he got it, I was like, okay, so he got something.
Hey! So, I want you to see this.
Dude. Shut up!
Since releasing that photo, it's gone viral, popping up in feeds around the world. Other photographers praising it, saying it's what dreams are made of. Other people wondering if it's AI or Photoshop. But no, it's real, very real.
So it's honestly very, very validating to see how much people love this shot.
And a 1 in a million shot wasn't enough. Gabe and Andrew say they're already working on their next shot.
Our thanks to William Pitts for that report.
His reaction's as cool as the shot. All right, that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.